we're still working to learn those details from police.
Breaking news, breaking news. Thank you, stop playing.
Yeah, so I can tell you, you can see this is kind of an older neighborhood. I spoke to one neighbor who said he had been living here for more than 40 years. It's usually quiet is what I'm hearing. A lot of people say they hadn't seen anything like this in their time living here, but it's an older Atlanta neighborhood. It's in the southwest part of the
Derrick
city,
Groves,
just near
Derrick Groves,
so
the last escapee from the New Orleans Parish has been captured.
Just stunned by this happening, especially right across the street from them. Yes, you can see for yourself at least 10, 15 officers out here, and we're told at any moment we are expected to hear more and get an update on what exactly happened here.
Hey, Ronnie Dwight.
Correct.
This is Derrick Groves, the last escapee from the New Orleans Parish, has been caught in Atlanta by the US Marshals.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hold on, let me. Derrick has been captured. Hold on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me see.
Denim starting at $29.90. That style feeling, is that more recent?
Hold on, let me get this. Oh. Let me go here. Hold on.
They tell me it was really quiet. They actually didn't realize what was happening. But the one woman I spoke with said at about 9 o'clock, the officers were. She didn't realize what was going on. And at 10:30, she tried to leave her home, the neighbor directly across the street from where this went down. And she says the officers immediately told her, get back in your home, get back inside, like get into safety. And again, she did not realize that there was a fugitive living across the street from her until all of this came out.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so it has to be such a disconcerting feeling to know that after this happened, that somebody was living next door who's an escapee from New Orleans and he has been convicted of murder.
And she said she noticed him, as we know, he was on the run for about 5 months, but she says she noticed him really for the last month. Again, couldn't identify him, didn't know who it was, but said she did also notice cars going into the back of the house, never parking in the driveway. Another neighbor told me the same thing. He also never noticed any cars in the driveway, which is abnormal, especially when you notice people inside the home. So if you're seeing somebody, like she said, looking at you through the blinds of your windows, and then you're noticing that there are never any cars in the driveway, she just said she knew something was wrong. She didn't know what it was.
And Marissa, one of the questions we were talking about earlier is, was this home abandoned? Was someone living in it? We look behind you and you showed us the house. I mean, the lawn seems to be well kept. There's landscaping seems to be kept up as well. Did neighbors talk about who was living there or whether they knew their neighbors?
So one of the women that I spoke with, one of the neighbors that lived across the street, she said that the house was sold a few years ago. She does not believe the owners that have owned it for the past few years were living in the house. She believes it was a rental.
Mimi.
She does not know who the renters are. She said that she had been in the home a few years ago back when she knew the owners were staying here. But
no, you didn't disrespect that.
She said it has
I
been
remember.
renters
No,
to her knowledge, and she doesn't know them. And I know the shot's going to be a little bit shaky, but if I can, I'm going to have my photographer Nicholas pick up the camera. If you guys will just bear with us. And I want to bring you over here because you really can see through the garage, and it's just
okay.
It's
so the one I was looking at,
asking a lot here, but through the garage,
earlier
you can
was
see
the
what I'm
right
talking about.
house.
The bed frame is there on the left-hand side. You can see the door through the back of that garage. It looks like somebody was living in this space. And one of the neighbors also told me he heard it this morning when SWAT knocked down the door. You could hear it down the street, knock down that garage door that you're looking at, as well as the front door of the home that you saw earlier.
Wow, that's really interesting. It's also interesting to me that he's been living there for a month, that the neighbors have noticed him there for a month. And I'm curious to know who ended up giving Crimestoppers that tip that ultimately landed law enforcement on his doorstep.
Right. We're not sure at this point. We're learning information as you guys are. So a lot coming out. We got sent to the scene at about 1 o'clock this afternoon, and we were here for when they took him away in the police car. But a lot of the legwork on this morning, we were not here for. I'm not even sure that all neighbors understood the severity of this. Most of them told us that they just realized it was the fugitive from Atlanta, from New Orleans here in Atlanta when we were talking to them within the last 30 minutes. So they were unaware of the scope of this at this point.
All right. Thank you so much for all that great information. That's Marissa Sarback with our sister station 11 Alive in Atlanta. And hopefully we'll talk to you again in a little bit as we all continue to try to get more information on this. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Interesting information coming
Deborah.
out of that report.
And just to see that house.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like a nice neighborhood. Hearing from witnesses that he was sort of peeking through the windows sometimes to see what was going on in the neighborhood.
Unless somebody else was in the house with him.
Yeah, and they noticed him for over a month now at that house.
Also may not have known who
Please
he was.
come in, hitting the like button.
Wanted in Orleans Parish out of Louisiana for escaping prison.
Yeah. But it's interesting if he's been in that same location for that amount of time and how much he's been moving around, from Atlanta to different parts of the country. Witnesses at the scene made it sound like law enforcement officers got there at around 9 o'clock this morning, that they were there for a couple of hours. It tried to get who they believed was Derrick Groves out of that house. It took some gas, being thrown into that house. Yes. And then obviously they broke down the garage door, broke down the front door, had to find him actually inside the house, and they found him in a crawl space. So I think he was hoping that law enforcement would break in, that they wouldn't find him, and that he would be able to once again get away. Obviously that didn't happen. And then something else interesting, Mike, is that we saw him screaming, and you heard Marissa there talking about how he was definitely trying to get himself heard as he was going away in that police car, moving from side to side, trying to get the camera's attention as they were driving away with him. But we just haven't been able to kind of slow it down and figure out exactly what he was saying at this point.
Marissa said she's going to go back and watch that video just to see if she can kind of get a clue in and hear what he was actually screaming from both sides of the police unit there. But of course, now we know that is Derrick Groves, who has been caught there in Southwest Atlanta after 5 months. We're almost 5 months to the day.
Yeah, almost.
The 15th, 16th of May, whenever that happened, and here we are on the 8th. So we're almost to that point. So it's a big sigh of relief for everybody back here in Orleans Parish.
Yes.
Because we never knew where he was.
Right.
He could have been down the street from the sheriff's office for all anybody else knew.
Right.
But here he was in Southwest Atlanta, because so many people have been in fear, as we've talked about, the people who have testified against him, those involved with the case, the DA's office, the attorneys, lawyers on probably both sides of the case, or probably breathing aside.
Derrick Groves has been arrested.
One other thing that is letting them breathe a sigh of relief is that
always something, right?
Was hurt in this whole operation, which I think is what law enforcement and everyone hopes for when they go into a situation like this. You never know what could happen, and in this case, he was taken back into custody without being injured. No other law enforcement agents were injured. Best outcome you could possibly get. Now, what you're looking at right now on your screen next to us is the podium where we are expecting to hear from Orleans Parish DA Jason Williams. He had a press conference that was scheduled at 2 o'clock today on something totally unrelated, but we are expecting to hear from him. And then he was supposed to have some other law enforcement officials there with him, and you can see right there on your screen, that's state police that's there with him. Not sure if the NOPD is going to be represented, but some other law enforcement agencies were supposed to be there. Again, talking about something unrelated. We're likely going to bring that news conference to you live, just so that you can hear what they have to say about this situation with Derrick Groves as well. So lots of news coming out from the Orleans DA. We got a statement from them earlier talking about the fact that really this was a sigh of relief for everyone involved. Those people who were witnesses in the murder case against Derrick Groves, Jason Williams himself who tried Derrick Groves, the ADAs who were prosecuting that case also were fearful after he had escaped. So this is going to give people, you know, a little bit of security tonight to know that he's back in custody.
You know, at this news conference, we do expect from Jason Williams, you might would imagine he would want to address this first. This is going to be something he wants to talk with, because he personally, as well as his office, was directly involved with the cases involving Derrick Groves, and as well as some of the other inmates who were caught. But Derrick Groves in particular, of course, you have the DA coming out saying that he was personally afraid of Derrick Groves being on the run because of the prosecutorial aspect of the DA's office.
Yeah, I mean, it can be very fearful for those prosecutors involved.
We know some had even left the city and the state.
Wow.
Fear of retaliation of that.
Yes.
Now, we do expect it from this news conference, the DA, you mentioned some other officials up there, have kind of the list of who's expected to be there. That's going to be the special agent in charge with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, NOPD, State Police, as well as Homeland Security Investigations, joining with the DA's office there.
This news conference is actually about a business that was shut down by all of those agencies because they feel like it was a hub of criminal activity in the French Quarter.
Yeah.
And so that's what they were initially going to talk about.
Please hit the like
They're
button.
still going to be talking about that, and that's why those same law enforcement officials are going to be there.
The last escapee, the final missing escapee,
so that
has been
is
caught
what the basis
in
of this news
Atlanta.
conference was. But we also, of course, want to hear more about Derrick Groves and his escape and his reapprehension this morning in Atlanta. Southwest Atlanta on Honeysuckle Street is where they finally got him in custody.
Yeah, in regards to what Katie was just talking about with that business, they're calling this a trafficking operation when it comes to illegal drugs as well as firearms, which is why we're having this news conference. It just happens to happen at the same time.
Yes.
You have Derrick Groves being taken into custody there in Atlanta.
Yeah, some people started hearing, you know, whispers of the fact that there may have been something going on in Atlanta related to Derrick Groves this morning, and then we first started getting confirmation that something was going down, and then finally at 1 o'clock this afternoon, about an hour ago, is when we got word from the US Marshal's office that Derrick Groves had been taken into custody safely at that location. What we don't know right now is if anyone helped him. We heard from witnesses who spoke with our reporter at our sister station that there were people coming and going from the house over about a month's time, that they had noticed that someone was living and staying in that house. They said they didn't park in the front in the drive.
They didn't park in the front. Okay, can I get y'all to hit the like button? Double tap your screen or hit the thumbs up.
Park in the front in the driveway. They say they were coming in through the back of the house, which they thought was unusual.
A red flag right there.
Yeah, the driveways are in the front of the houses there that you can see on that street, on Honeysuckle Street. So very unusual for the residents who lived around there. What they didn't know is that it was someone who had escaped from jail here in Orleans Parish.
When you talk about crawl spaces where he was found under the house, you know, Atlanta has a different type of topography.
Yeah.
Crawl
It's a little
space.
different.
Yeah.
We don't really have that type of luxury.
No hills, no basements here.
No basements, but in Atlanta, you've got some of that topography where you can actually have basements, you can have crawl spaces and things underneath the house, which is something law enforcement would have to be mindful of going into any situation like that, that would be a possibility. Because as you kind of mentioned earlier, like, he got down there, they gassed the house, hoping that they wouldn't find him.
Yeah.
But thankfully, they were able to track him down.
Yeah, and they took him into custody. No one was hurt. And you can see right now on your screen, Jason Williams getting ready to speak. That's the Orleans Parish DA, surrounded by other law enforcement agencies. Again, to talk about a business on Burgundy Street in the French Quarter that has been shut down, allegedly as a hub of illegal activity. So we're waiting to hear from them in just moments as he talks about that. And of course, we're planning on asking them about the recapture of Derrick Groves. So let's listen in.
Details on the ground, because obviously I was not there, but we have confirmed that escaped inmate Derrick Groves was captured in Atlanta, Georgia, following a standoff in Southwest Atlanta. After nearly 5 months on the run after escape from the Orleans Parish Justice Center on May 16th. I think across the board, whether you are a reporter or whether you are in law enforcement or whether you lived in the neighborhood where he wreaked havoc, or whether you were a witness who was brave enough to come forward and testify against him, everybody is sighing a collective sigh of relief, knowing that a person who was facing multiple life sentences.
Oh, what happened?
Crimes that he was already convicted of, and the other crimes that he committed.
Can you talk about the partnerships that led to today's arrest?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, you've got the Atlanta Police Department heavily involved, working very closely with Brian Fair and the U.S. Marshal Service. The U.S. Marshal Service has just really gone above and beyond when we have multi-jurisdictional issues. There have been a number of cases in which they've weighed in quite heavily, working with the NOPD and all of our federal and state and local partners and Troop NOLA to try to find him when he was here. Obviously, they had a bit of a lead time in when that was reported to law enforcement partners and the press, and he was able to make good as his.
Hey, howdy ho, neighbor!
Oh,
Request to locate.
I think saying a number of times, Derrick Groves has to get lucky every single time, and law enforcement has to get lucky once, and that happened today. Thank God.
please double tap the face of your screen or hit the like button.
You know, I think a lot of people were. Let me speak for myself. I was deeply concerned that someone that had been convicted of a double homicide and was supposed to be in Angola would not go easily. I was afraid that there would be loss of life, whether it be civilian or law enforcement. And I don't think we thank Derrick Groves for that. I think we thank God for that, that he was taken into custody without injury.
Well, DA, if you could, I know this is sort of the very beginning. I mean, Derrick Groves captured, that's one thing, but how did he get to Atlanta? And if he had any help along the way, that's something that investigators are going to be looking at.
Look, I'm not going to, I don't spend too much time on this because these folks are here to celebrate a monumental accomplishment for the city of New Orleans, just as this arrest was. Obviously, Chris, if you go to Atlanta later on today, you're going to have some help. Whether it's Uber driver, whether it's getting some gas, whether it is catching a flight. He obviously had some help. And there will be a thorough investigation to any and everybody that helped him along the way, in whatever parish and whatever county that assistance came.
Last question, what charging decisions do you have?
I don't want to address that at this point, Paul. It's a little too soon. But thank you all for being here today to focus on 31-1 Burgundy Street. We're standing here at what appeared to be, or appeared to the public to be, a retail business called Culture Fashion. Today,
that's Orleans DA Jason Williams. We'll have more on the meat of his press conference for you in our later newscasts. Right now, we're talking about the recapture of Derrick Groves. Sharice Gibson joining me now here on set in studio as we follow this breaking news this afternoon. What we just heard from Jason Williams was, everyone is relieved that he is now back in custody.
We tend to forget here, Derrick Groves was convicted.
Yes.
So with Derrick Groves being convicted, the prosecutors who were involved in that conviction immediately after the escape of those 10 inmates, a lot of them went into a protective custody. They went into hiding because people were fearful that he was still out. And then 5 months later, him still being out still had people uneasy.
Yeah.
So as he mentioned at the beginning of that press conference, it's to the relief of reporters, it's to the relief of the witnesses who testified against him, and even to the prosecutors that he has been captured in Atlanta. Even though I hear the conversation, a lot of people are asking why Atlanta, what brought him there? Did he feel like he was pinned down? And I have questions about the house, because this seems like a typical neighborhood where a person lives. Is he related to the person that's inside of this house? How no one noticed him, because he has very visible features. If you look at his face, some tattoos, some that are around his neck. I'm very
He do
curious
look a
as to
little
what got him
different
up to
though.
Atlanta. And as we've seen in many of these cases, there likely is going to be, around his neck he had tattoos, not on his face, but I'm thinking about Eric Massey here.
Antoine Massey,
excuse me.
Another escapee.
Yeah, who was captured in New Orleans, no less. But as we've seen in other situations and in other cases connected to this historic jailbreak, someone else had to help him get up there, and someone else likely will be taken into custody.
Yeah, so we just heard from Jason Williams, again, the DA saying they are planning to prosecute anyone who was involved in helping Derrick Groves over the past 5 months. they'll prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law. And I think he means business on that front. He has shown, with these other escapees and all of the people who have helped those other escapees over the last 5 months, that he has really shown no mercy to those people.
Oh, yeah, they've all been given incredibly high bonds. We've done a story on this because they want to make an example of these people.
Yes.
And we typically see the same situation. They are taken extradited back into New Orleans, taken immediately by helicopter to Angola. That is where many of them are standing right now. But Derrick
Yes.
Groves is in a very different situation because, again, he is the only one that was convicted and on some of the most serious charges.
Yes, he was in jail awaiting sentencing. Now he'll, of course, be awaiting trial on those, what we anticipate will be new charges of escape and quite frankly, probably some other charges as well that I'm not thinking about right now. But, he'll have to stand trial on those new charges too. But as you mentioned, all the other people have been taken to the Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola for a more secure situation because of the concerns about security at the jail.
And we talk about the security at the jail. We just had our Mike Pearlstein, who just left our station here, but Mike Pearlstein really tapped into what's happening at the jail. There was another situation where there was potentially almost another escape inside of the Orleans Justice Center. So this calls into question everything that's happening at the jail, the security situation, and what's going on there.
Yeah, and we know that at least was thwarted in that situation. We are going to continue to follow this breaking news. Derrick Groves back in custody. We're going to follow it for you throughout the afternoon, and we'll bring you the very latest on WWL Louisiana News. We do have some more information. I was going to wrap it up, but apparently you've got some new information coming in. So hold right there, Sharice. We're not leaving yet.
No. Apparently, there's going to be a press conference by the Atlanta police. We're going to be listening into that. That's where Derrick Groves was captured. Obviously, this is a multi-state and a multi-police effort, because when you talk about this jailbreak, I think the furthest that they've gotten, we have Georgia, the others were captured in Texas.
I believe there's one in Texas, yes.
Yeah, there were others captured in Texas, and there were many potential sightings of Derrick Groves. I remember at one point we were talking about him being in Mississippi. Some people had sent in tips saying that he had been in Florida, so everyone was concerned and looking for him. We did not know 5 months out after that escape. That was an historic escape of 10 inmates. I remember that we were sitting here when we saw the video for the first time.
Yes.
That was shocking.
Yes, our jaws dropped.
Yeah, that was shocking because I think we've never seen anything like that. People just running out of the jail. So, right now, a lot of people probably relieved, but Derrick Groves, again, facing some of the more serious charges. And Katie, if I'm not mistaken, that's a live shot right now. An Atlanta police officer still out there.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is live or not, but we do know this is Honeysuckle Street. That's the house where police, US Marshals, federal law enforcement agents all took Derrick Groves into custody this morning after about 2 hours of trying to get him out of the house. They ended up going in, finding him in a crawl space underneath the house, which is where he was holed up. As he was hoping, I think, that they would not be able to find him and move on.
I'm really curious, as that reporter that was out there from one of our sister stations, if they can give us an idea. We did see him yelling outside of the back of the vehicle. What exactly was he saying during those moments? Because I feel like we saw the same thing with Antoine Massey. Antoine Massey still claiming his innocence. I wonder if Derrick Groves is doing the same. But we do know that last year that Groves was convicted. A jury convicted him of killing 2 people when he opened fire kind of on a family block party with an assault rifle. And they said this was prosecutor said at the time that this was a rivalry with drug dealers. He faced life imprisonment. I know that DA Jason Williams, they said they were asking for the maximum penalty, life in prison without parole. We talked about those administrative delays that happened that kept him inside of a non-secure facility under the Orleans Justice Center instead of keeping him and moving him over to Angola prison, which is a highly secure facility. And I think that begs to question something we've always talked about, the number of inmates that are kept inside of the Orleans Justice Center who are supposed to go to trial, especially for some very serious charges. I visited with Sheriff Susan Hudson inside of that Justice Center. She told me at one point that there was an inmate who spent 6 or 7 years in that facility waiting to go to trial.
Yes.
That's not what it's for.
No, it's not. It's not a long-term housing facility, even though that is what it unfortunately often is used for.
Yeah, please hit the like button.
Criminal justice system, with COVID, it pushed a number of trials back. So there's been a huge backlog that prosecutors have had to get through in terms of cases that have been, backlogged at Tulane and Broad. And because of that, you have a lot of inmates who have been held and housed at that Orleans Justice Center for a longer period of time, I think, than they normally would have. But
Derrick
in Derrick
Groves.
Groves' case, he was awaiting sentencing. He was supposed to be transferred to a state facility after that sentencing happened, but they escaped in the meantime. I think that's one of the things that made law enforcers so concerned about the fact that Derrick Groves was out there, because as they mentioned over these months, he really had nothing to lose. He's likely going to prison for life. So he was on the run. He was going to stay on the run as long as he possibly could.
Absolutely.
His worst case scenario is what happened in that suburban Atlanta house this morning.
Yeah, and one thing that we did discover about Derrick Groves, he has a really interesting history, connecting him to being the grandson, if I'm not mistaken, of Kim Groves. And Kim Groves was at the center of one of New Orleans' most notorious murders.
Yes.
She was a 32-year-old mother of 3 when she was killed in the 9th Ward in the 90s. And unfortunately, this hit.
Yes.
As we all know, the story was ordered by then NOPD police officer Lynn Davis. So really interesting history that we delved into Derrick Groves, where you can kind of mention that he's been surrounded by this kind of violence potentially all of his life. And many people were talking about his history being connected to the way he is right now. Just to give you an update right now, we're standing by, we're waiting on the Atlanta Police Department to give us an update as to how they led to the capture of Derrick Groves. I see that shot being set up right now. Hopefully they can give us more answers as to what he was saying and the circumstances behind his capture.
Yes, and we do know that Atlanta police, there were some other neighboring law enforcement agencies that were also involved in taking him back into custody there on Honeysuckle Street. We know that this was on the southwest side of Atlanta, but Atlanta police proper, again, some county police that were out there that had been assisting. You could see those decals on their units, but they obviously knew that they were dealing with a dangerous individual. They knew that this could go very, very wrong. Thankfully, it did not this morning. No one was hurt, including Derrick Groves himself. At least that's what it appears from the photos and from the videos that we've seen there at the scene.
All right, I know that we're standing by for that to start, but let's go back to share this to happen because this is a secure facility. We do know so far that, if I'm not mistaken, only one employee has been arrested at the jail, and they're currently investigating a number of people, including family members, people who are connected to these inmates who escaped them, who helped them to escape after the fact. But there are potentially someone else inside of the jail that could potentially face arrest if they were involved in this escape. We do remember that. I know this is 5 months ago that we're still talking about this. You remember that they removed a toilet and cut a big hole, and of course the messaging that was written on top of the wall, talking more.
Easy.
Too easy is becoming thing. I think we're looking right now. They're starting their press conference.
Yes.
All right, let's take a live listen in.
We can give you time. In the meantime, I'll let you know what we got going on. We are going to hear from Deputy Chief Kelly Collier. That's Kelley Collier, Collier. He's a Deputy Chief of our Community Services Division of the Atlanta Police Department. Everyone rolling?
Rolling.
Frank, you rolling? Got somebody behind you. Are you good? All right, everyone. Deputy Chief Kelly Collier.
Good afternoon. I'm Deputy Chief Kelly Collier with the City of Atlanta Police Department. So this afternoon, here on Honeysuckle Lane, the United States Marshals Southeast Fugitive Taskforce, in conjunction with the Atlanta Police Department and the Clayton County Police Department, were able to take Derrick Groves, 28 years old, into custody here on Honeysuckle Lane. Mr. Groves was wanted for escape from the Orleans Parish jail in May of this year. He was convicted earlier in the state of Louisiana for 2 counts of murder. We are so thankful for the bravery and courage of all the officers involved in this operation. He is the 10th of 10 individuals to be taken into custody from the Orleans Parish incident.
All right, everyone. We don't have a lot of information that we can provide, but we will allow for it.
What challenges did you face trying to get him out of there? See, the SWAT did a lot of damage to the home.
That's correct. Our SWAT team, with all their training, and experience they were able to bring him out. We deployed a number of our SWAT team, canisters of gas to help move and experience they were able to bring him out. We deployed a number of canisters of gas to help move him throughout the house, which he moved to the basement of the house. Soon after, Clayton County K-9 was deployed in the crawl space of the location and found him in that crawl space.
Can you talk to us about how you even knew he was here? Was this a tip that came in? How did you guys find him?
No, I can't talk about that. Maybe the US Marshal Service can talk about that.
Is that something you can talk about? Is this the house of somebody? Hold on for me one second.
All right, that is Deputy Chief in Atlanta Police Department, Kelly Collier, giving us what very little we know about the capture of Derrick Groves. He said again, this is a multiple state investigation.
Why don't you take it off of the U.S. Marshal?
Police, including the Clayton County Police Department.
Is the U.S. Marshal Service speaking right now? Do we want to go back to that?
Yeah. Okay. So again, as we just give this little information that we do have, the little information that they can share with journalists here, that there was a standoff and the SWAT team did bring him out by deploying gas canisters inside of the house. That's when he moved to the basement of the house and a K-9 was deployed and obviously was captured.
Yes, they used a K-9, like you said, to go into that crawl space, and that's where they found him. And I think he was hoping that they would not be able to find him, but they put the dogs out, dogs found him.
Yes.
So
Let the dogs out.
cover this breaking news situation. Derrick Groves back in custody after 5 months on the run, and we'll have the latest for you on WWL Plus if you want to continue with us right now. And of course, you can join us for the WWL Louisiana News at 5, bringing you the very latest then.
Let me see what else we can pull up. Hold on.
This has been breaking news from WWL Louisiana.
Oh, this is him being. Is this 11? Hold on, y'all. But y'all need to get the likes up. I'm going to go ahead and end it. I don't know what y'all got going on with the likes.
Incredible. It was really an incredible scene. When you see the huge number of law enforcement that were there, you know, we saw at least 2 massive armored vehicles that were being taken away from that scene when we first joined you all live on the air about 40 minutes ago. They were just starting to leave after taking him back into custody. Can we show that video again? Can we re-rack that video of him in the car? At least that. Who we think it is in the car, and now we're hearing from Brian Fair that he was alone in the house, so it's reasonable to assume that this is Derrick Groves in the back of this police cruiser. We heard from our reporters at the scene that he was taken out in handcuffs, that he walked away from the scene, and as Brian Fair just mentioned, no one was hurt in taking him back into custody. So a huge cooperative effort, both on the part of the U.S. Marshals and these multiple law enforcement agencies.
There you go. Being taken back into custody on his way back to life in prison.
Both here.
Yeah, I need for y'all to get the likes up.
U.S. Marshals and these multiple law enforcement agencies.
Derrick Groves. Get the likes up, please.
Both here in New Orleans and in Atlanta. You can see, I'm curious to hear what he was shouting outside of the car.
He was shouting.
Here, Katie. A lot of another really big part of that. You heard Brian.
I wonder what was he shouting.
We'll get that, of course. And when you talk about the collaborative efforts here, Katie, a lot of another.
Yes, indeed.
very fast moving situation right now, Katie. I'm here at the jail, like you mentioned, and outside it seems kind of like business at.
Oh.
On the 3 p.m. streaming hour of Fox Local, I'm Tom Hayes, live with you here in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom, where we've had a lot of news breaking this afternoon just before we've come to you on our stream today. A huge SWAT situation unfolding near East Point today, and the capture, we understand, of that one remaining prisoner, that escapee from a New Orleans prison back in May. You remember when 10 prisoners escaped? Well, there was one left, and he's apparently been captured right here in the metro Atlanta area. Deidre Dukes is on the scene where this all happened. We're talking, Deidre, about Derrick Groves. He's the last of those 10 men to be captured in dramatic fashion right there near East Point.
Run all coming to an end here at DeLoe Drive.
Yeah, I need for y'all to get the lights up. I'm not
A lot of police
playing with y'all today.
on here. Just beyond the police tape down the street, you see there the house there, the gray brick mason house with the brown roof there, and the white fence, that basement door open. That is where about an hour ago, Atlanta police, joined by the US Marshal service, did pull him out of that house. Now, this culminating after the
There you go, y'all.
having been on the run for several months. Now, this happened after an hours-long SWAT standoff here. Neighbors reporting to Fox 5 that this all started this morning when SWAT units rolled in along with APD officers. Atlanta SWAT rolling in with APD officers.
Dramatic fashion right there near East Point.
Did he say manic?
That's right. Months on the run, all coming to an end here at DeLoe Drive and West Cedar Lane here in Southwest Atlanta, just up the street here. A lot of police activity going on here, just beyond the police tape down the street. You see there the house there, the gray brick mason house with the brown roof there, and the white fence, that basement door open. That is where about an hour ago, Atlanta police, joined by the US Marshal service, did pull him out of that house. Now, this culminating after the fugitive having been on the run.
I need for y'all to
really
get the
big
lights
part of
up.
that you heard Brian talk about.
He's the last of those 10 men to be captured in dramatic fashion right there near East Point.
Is the community. Had it not
That's
been
right.
for tips
Months
through
on the run, all
Crimestoppers,
coming to an end here at DeLoe
Yeah,
Drive
and
and
you can see
West Cedar Lane here in Southwest Atlanta, just up the street here. A lot of police activity going on here, just beyond the police tape down the street. You see there the house there, the gray brick mason house with the brown roof there, and the white fence, that basement door open. That is where about an hour ago, Atlanta police, joined by the US Marshal service, did pull him out of that house. Now, this culminating after the fugitive having been on the run for several months. Now, this happened after an hours-long SWAT standoff here. Neighbors reporting to Fox 5 that this all started this morning when SWAT units rolled in along with APD officers, Atlanta SWAT rolling in with APD officers, cordoning off this stretch of West Cedar Lane off of DeLoe Drive in Southwest Atlanta. Neighbors saying an officer got on the bullhorn out front of the residence, called for that wanted fugitive Derrick Groves to surrender to authorities. Now, 27-year-old Groves was one of 10 inmates who broke out of jail in New Orleans back in May. He was the last remaining fugitive who was still at large. He managed to elude authorities for months before being captured at this home in Atlanta this afternoon. Now, our photographer Eric Len captured exclusive images of Groves being brought out of the house in handcuffs by law enforcement about an hour ago. Atlanta police assisting the US Marshal service this afternoon in this operation. Groves was serving time after being convicted of killing 2 people during a Mardi Gras party back in 2024 in New Orleans. So again, just major developments here this afternoon after an operation which unfolded here throughout the morning into the afternoon. Again, that fugitive from justice from New Orleans back in custody, captured here in Southwest Atlanta, Tom, this afternoon.
Incredible. So many incredible facets to this story. What New Orleans officials originally characterized as a historic escape by these 10 men back in May. This last remaining prisoner captured in that East Point area, brought out as we saw. Our cameras were there and rolling as he was brought out of that house. It's incredible the speed by which authorities captured this guy, the fact that it went off without anyone being injured there. And we had calls right here into the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom from people who lived in that neighborhood who said, hey, something might be going down here.
That's right. Those calls began coming into our newsroom early this morning, mid-morning, I should say. And Tom, I spoke to a neighbor a short time ago. She was here just beyond the police tape, waiting to be allowed to return to her home. She said she was here this morning when she heard the police activity, heard a boom. She said she heard all types of activity a few doors down from her home. She said she was surprised because she thought that the house was vacant. She said she had not seen any activity at that residence. She said this type of thing just doesn't happen in this community. She described it as a quiet community, saying she's lived here for several years. And so for something like this to happen in a home that she believed to be vacant, she, of course, has a lot of questions, just like the rest of us. She's wondering if the house was, in fact, vacant, or perhaps if someone actually did live at the home, perhaps left the area for some time to assist Groves possibly, and then returned here with him where he, apparently was hiding out at this residence, or at least was at the residence today. Again, that's just speculation on the neighbor's part. We do not know. Tom, police are going to hold a news conference shortly nearby to provide more details on this ongoing operation and investigation.
Well, we'll certainly be there for that. Deidre, thanks for that live report. Speaking of news conferences, want to get you right to New Orleans, where there's a news conference happening right now among officials there about this capture of this last prison inmate.
Shooting apples. Oh! New Fireball Blazing Apple. Shoot it straight.
The US Marshal Service has just really gone above and beyond when we have multi-jurisdictional issues. There have been a number of cases in which they've weighed in quite heavily, working with the NOPD and all of our federal and state and local partners and Troop NOLA to try to find when he was here. Obviously, they had a bit of a lead time in when that was reported to law enforcement partners and the press, and he was able to make good his escape for 5 months. But I think you may remember Brian Fair saying a number of times, Derrick Groves has to get lucky every single time, and law enforcement has to get lucky once. And that happened today, thank God.
And the fact that all of these inmates were recovered, were taken into custody without any injury, one shot,
I think a lot of people were, let me speak for myself. I was concerned that someone that had been convicted of a double homicide and was supposed to be in Angola would not go easily. I was afraid that there would be loss of life, whether it be civilian or law enforcement. And I don't think we thank Derrick Groves for that. I think we thank God for that he was taken into custody without injury.
What DA, if you could, I know this is sort of the very beginning. I mean, Derrick Groves captured, that's one thing, but how did he get to Atlanta, and if he had any help along the way, that's something that investigators are going to be looking into.
Look, I'm not going to, I don't spend too much time on this because these folks are here to celebrate a monumental accomplishment for the city of New Orleans, just as this arrest was. Obviously, Chris, if you go to Atlanta later on today, you're going to have some help. Whether it's an Uber driver, whether it's getting some gas, whether it is catching a flight. He obviously had some help. And there will be a thorough investigation to any and everybody that helped him along the way, in whatever parish and whatever county that assistance came.
Last question, what charging decisions do you have right now?
I don't want to address that at this point, Paul. It's a little too soon. But thank you all for being here today to focus on 31-1 Burgundy Street. We're standing here at what appeared to be, or appeared to the public to be, a retail business called Culture Fashion. Today I stand with
New Orleans District Attorney Jason Williams talking about the arrest of Derrick Groves, the last of 10 prison inmates that escaped from the New Orleans prison system last May. He was in jail awaiting a life sentence at the time of the jailbreak for 2 counts of second-degree murder. He was captured in the East Point area by SWAT officials and led out of that building. There is the moment that Derrick Groves was led out of that house, hands tied behind his back by the SWAT team who captured him. The district attorney, for his part, saying that he's surprised that it didn't go down without any injuries or loss of life. After all, Groves is awaiting a life sentence and was at the time of his break, and that he was convinced that Groves wouldn't go, quote, easily. Well, it appears he was taken into custody without incident today in our own area here in Atlanta of what authorities described as a historic jailbreak that happened back in New Orleans back in May.
Did they say somebody just opened the door and let them out?
Microphones set up. We're waiting the Atlanta Police Department to approach to sort of tell us how all of this went down. So many unanswered
Somebody mentioned last night that it was staged.
How Derrick Groves got to our area. Did he have an enabler? Did he have help? These are all the sorts of questions that authorities are going to be working through, especially in New Orleans, where he'll undoubtedly be extradited to officials there to face new charges now of escaping from prison as he awaited his sentencing. Well, speaking of jails, now to Jail Watch here in our own area. We've been covering all kinds of troubling stories at the Fulton County Jail for what seems like forever. Today, there's word of an arrest of a jail employee, but this time in Clayton County. Angelique Proctor working at
Okay, y'all, I'm gonna get ready to go. Y'all can't hit the like button. I can't stay. That's just how we gonna play this from now on. If you can't hit the like button, I can't stay and entertain you. You can't waste my time if you can't hit the like button. That's just what that is.
The sheriff made it clear
Peace.
there is no blue line of silence here. He says he is going to make sure